In my mind, I want to be able to say, if you are here, I will serve you. Whatever you need, we will make it happen. But that's not the truth. The truth is budgets are fueled by enrollment.
In Michigan's capital city, the Lansing School District's student count had been shrinking for years. But prior to the pandemic, those losses were leveling out. Then last year, as students, parents, and their schools struggled to stay connected during the pandemic, the district experienced a drop of almost 1,000 students from the year prior, a 9.2% decrease.
We count on the walls of schools so heavily. And the walls kind of like keep us gathered in like this one central location. And we did not have that over the past year and a half.
That worrisome trend played out in public school districts nationwide last year. And this fall, it's unclear how many of those students will return.
This upcoming school year is new for everyone. It's pivotal, there's no question about that.
So what's at stake for schools long term if they can't recover student numbers lost during the pandemic?
Traditionally, public school enrollment and school funding are linked. As a school has more students enrolled, they get more funding from the state.
When it comes to that state funding, enrollment in Michigan is normally evaluated on 2 count days during the school year, which means regular student attendance is crucial. During the pandemic, many states, including Michigan, eased restrictions around how students are counted. This helped to limit reductions in per-pupil state aid. Another safety net? Funding from the COVID-19 relief law. In 2020, the Lansing School District received $8,227 per student in state aid, which initially meant approximately $84 million in state funding. Without those more flexible policies, the district says last year's student count decline could have resulted in a loss of around $6 million. This year, student counts are largely returning to pre-pandemic policies.
If schools aren't able to bring enough students back to school, they will be forced to deal with some rather significant and awful decisions to make, whether it's cuts to personnel, programming cuts. Those are all closely tied to the amount of students they have enrolled.
Enrollment declines don't necessarily mean a school's costs go down. So when budgets are cut, it often means schools are left with less money to pay for the staffing and programs that the school still needs. Nationally, grades that saw the most significant drop-offs were kindergarten and pre-K, grades that are not compulsory in many states. That enrollment trend also occurred in Lansing.
Families just didn't enroll their children, and so they were just waiting out for another year. They basically redshirted their kids.
Experts say they initially believed enrollment in younger students would tick up this fall, and that kindergarten classes might even be overcrowded. But the spread of the Delta variant is throwing that into question.
This is Jakia Murphy. I'm the principal at Rio Elementary. How are you? Do you know what the first day of school is? I am talking to teachers and I'm talking to parents. What do we do to keep these kids in school? Simply put.
Of the students who officially left Rio last year, Murphy says the reasons for those departures varied. Some moved away, others shifted to schools offering in-person learning.
I lost parents because they needed students in the classroom. I lost students to charter schools within the Lansing School District boundary. As a parent, I always left those conversations saying, I get it. I get it.
Murphy says the larger issue at Rio, where 87% of kids are eligible for free or reduced lunch, was with families who disengaged or burned out from virtual learning.
I would say our preschool kids and our kindergarten kids disengaged early on in the school year. And it was easier for those parents, because I asked, it was easier for those parents to say, we'll see you when we can come in person.
This fall is the first time the Lansing School District is welcoming students back in person. Schuldiner and his team put together different budgets based on potential enrollment numbers, because the district's budget won't be finalized for this school year until after the fall student count, which takes place in October.
I've got some doomsday budgets about what it looks like at 8,000 kids, and that was about, are you going to shut a school down? Are you going to close some programs? Are you going to do certain things? And then I have some, wonderful rainbow in the sky kind of things at 11,000. Wow, we might be able to reopen some programs that we had shuttered 20 years ago.
So how are public schools working to recover students? Schuldiner outlined 3 enrollment initiatives that Lansing is prioritizing.
First and foremost is that we've announced universal pre-K. That for me is a linchpin to what a district should always be doing.
Schuldiner hopes it improves enrollment in the long term.
We looked at some numbers and we basically said, wow, the students that start with us in pre-K stay with us.
Second, the district created a K-12 online school for anyone who prefers remote instruction. The online school will also allow the district some flexibility so that kids enrolled in in-person instruction who need to quarantine because of COVID-19 can continue to attend school and still be counted. The third enrollment initiative focuses on outreach to the community.
Instead of them coming to us, we're pushing out because we're trying to get enrollment numbers up and create new relationships.
We got enrollment for anybody from K to 12 for any of the Lansing public schools, so make sure you see that booth.
I will never be unprepared to enroll a student. You don't have to come to me, I will find you. So if I'm at the grocery store and I see a little kid, I'm like, hey, how old are you? What school you go to?
Murphy says she and her team are working to solve problems for families and answer questions that might be preventing parents from bringing students back to school.
Do you need transportation? No. Do you need before or after care?
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah. I think you're all good.
Once the academic year begins, school leaders like Murphy need to ensure that those students who did enroll keep showing up.
Schools need to be really hyper-focused on the supports that they provide to educators, as those educators then provide supports to students as they return back to the classrooms.
Plop it right in that hole.
That return looks increasingly complicated, as districts around the country face challenges like staffing shortages and quarantines due to the spread of COVID-19. Lansing School District has implemented a mask mandate for anyone entering district buildings, and a vaccine requirement for staff. Still, Schuldiner says without renewed policies that allow for more flexibility, attendance and student counts may be threatened by quarantines or school closures due to COVID-19.
So if that means I need to have conversations with parents about why their enrollment matters to us collectively at Rio, I need to get my talking points together and make sure that that is communicated in a kind, sensitive way, but one that is effective and resonates with all of us, because we do need all of us in order for this to work.